y'all. From coast to coast, from shore to shining shore. You in front of the speakers, Jimmy in front of that microphone. Like the Lord intended. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. Hey, feel that floorboard shake. Faith meets fire when Jimmy Lakey's away. Truth on his tongue, little smoke in the air. He'll say the words you won't even dare. LAKEYUNLEASHED, unleashed and unfiltered. Unleashed and unfiltered. Coast to coast and shore to shore we roll. Politics and information. Infotainment, revelation. He talks Jesus, he talks real life. We are here for more. Unleashed and unfiltered. Oh, the show starts now. He's unafraid. Telling the truth. Quiet. Faith in his heart, a little fire in his hand. We're having church on the air. Amen. Amen. One time for the truth. One time for the truth. Two times for the king. Three times for the king. Three times for Jimmy Lakey. Three times for Jimmy. Let revival ring. Let revival ring. The show starts now. Now.
All right.
Unleashed and unfiltered. Unleashed and unfiltered.
All right, here I am, my friends, running a little bit behind and tardy. Troubles at the Lakey Entertainment Towers this morning. I made a mistake this morning. I let my dog come to the studio with me, and the dog was not cooperative, causing scenes. Had to put him into a different room, and regretfully, the dog. The dog's not sitting right there, but he was making too many noises, and for some reason, and he just wanted attention. And I'm not here to give him attention. I'm here to give you attention, the listeners and viewers of this program. You get my undivided and maybe even unmerited, but you get my attention this morning, and I'm glad to have you here on the show. It is a Monday morning, the 30th day of March, year of our Lord, 2020. What is it? 2020, 2026. Get it right. All right. Very good. All right. I got, anybody see the No Kings protest this weekend? No Kings protest. Did anybody go to one? I'm telling you, my friends, it is a sad lot of people, I tell you, that were out protesting this weekend. I saw the thing and I couldn't believe it. And I'm actually not surprised, but I want you to look at this image that I'm about to show you and contemplate and consider. If you saw any of the No Kings protest, tell me I am incorrect. Just reflect upon that for a second. My mama always said the left is always mad because their women are ugly and they've had to have men replace all their women. Isn't that true? I'm driving down the road. I see these No Kings protests going on. And I'm telling you, it was a sad lot of people that I can't imagine are allowed out of the house. It looked like angry school teacher substitutes. I couldn't figure what they were protesting. By the way, good job though. If it was for No Kings, we woke up on Monday morning and still don't have a king. I guess they succeeded. The left is maybe that's why they were so ugly and so rude and so nasty that you just have to think that perhaps maybe they were mad because they're so ugly they have to have dudes like even compete in sports on their behalf. It was I don't know. I don't know. It was really weird. There were a few men at the protest that I drove past, and they had one guy in a Prius. I don't know, some woman in a Prius. You couldn't tell the difference. Therefore, a leftist honking their horn, waving, and everybody else was just like, F off. Like flip off. That's what we meant to say. It was really, it was interesting to see it. And there was a couple of dudes that looked like they had handed their testicles into the lockbox, and they were not. They were participating. I mean, one dude so old he couldn't stand it, holding a sign in a lawn chair said "Veterans Against Trump." I really want to get to the bottom of it. is that none of us liked Obama. We knew the disgusting mess that Joe Biden was in the White House, and none of us would ever, ever, ever go stand at an intersection holding up signs like that and beating drums and chanting weird stuff. And if you watch some of the ones that, like in Boston, I saw, they had what we call line array speakers. I mean, it was a big stage. The line arrays were up, and you're like, that's tens of thousands of dollars of rental equipment. So these are fun, hired hack. They don't even know it, but these events, the publicity, the fact that they all knew about it, it's all paid for. And the sad thing is, I think these people are too mentally deranged. They're too far down the primrose path of destruction to save themselves. They really were some weird individuals out there. And I didn't see a point. I did not see a point. The people that were saying no kings wanted Maduro to stay in office. They wanted the Ayatollah to continue to live. They wanted Dr. Fauci to boss them around and Joe Biden to kick people out of the military for not getting the jab. Where were the No Kings protests then? And so all I saw was a bunch of vitriol, people that literally suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, unwilling to accept and cope mentally on the verge of a breakdown with the results of the last election. If somebody had a different experience, if any of you went to one, I'd love to hear your take on it. But the No Kings protest, really, the more these people go to the streets, the more they illustrate what idiots are out there on the other side. It's okay to not like your political opponent. I would have respect if you went out there and said, no bombs in Iran, no bomb. But this was all just simply people so deranged on the 30th day of March, beautiful weather in Colorado, where I was at, that they were so deranged, so hateful that they couldn't go out and enjoy a soccer match with their kids or grandkids, maybe even work in the yard a little bit. They just couldn't do anything. That's how they spent it. It was really... Again, I just drove past one. I didn't know I was driving past one until I saw these ugly people. And then when I saw the ugly people, I said, oh, I must have arrived at a thing. Look, yeah, these are all Democrat voters. They didn't represent themselves well. That's my opinion. Maybe you have a different opinion, but I'd love to get your thoughts on the No Kings protest over the weekend. Did you see it? And again, let me refresh your memory. This is what it is. The left is always mad because their women are so ugly, they had to replace them with dudes. And that is, that's it. It did cross my mind how many of these ugly women are actually dudes at the No Kings protest. It crossed my mind that some of these people may not be real women. They may be fake women identifying as women. I don't know. It was a mess. All right, give me your thoughts on the No Kings protest. And would you people please stop it? Just knock it off. It's not becoming. I don't see that it gets any gains any ground. Gets any attention other than they want chaos, and feel free. Somebody did post up. I see Cody posted this up. Our friend Joseph also posted this up. If you had conservatives out there, you would be posting some Jesus is the only king or something like that. That's what we'd be doing. But they are just filled with hate and vitriol. It was sad. It really is sad to see some of our brethren and sistren in this country that have gone so deranged that they wasted a Saturday like that and not understanding that they're pawns and puppets in a bigger game. I think there's like 900 or 90 or a big number, 990 organizations or something like that across America that funded these things, and they got money from the same people. They got the money from the same people that funded the Black Lives Matter protest. They're all paid protesters and props, and they don't even know it. Indeed. All right, good to have you here. Anybody go to the airport this weekend? How about the aeropuerto? Anybody go? I'm hearing some airports are better than others. Not all airports are created equal. Give me your TSA story. Now, I've heard mixed things. President Trump evidently signed an executive order that through emergency funding, he's going to start paying the TSA today. Yes, Friday, I was very critical of this the Senate bill that went over to the House. And I said, this is cowardly of the U.S. Senate, cowardly of John Thune. And I said, I don't know if it's a good bill or not, but the way they do it under the cover of darkness, it just shows that as they're trying to get out of town for Easter, it just shows that they are cowards and not many leaders in the U.S. Senate. Well, sure enough, by the time the show ended, and that afternoon, the House of Representatives had told the U.S. Senate to go pound sand and go play in the street or something, we're not passing this bill. And it was a unanimous consent bill in which they basically, we have unanimous consent to send this over. They didn't really debate it. They looked at it and said, yeah, it's good. And I would just say every Republican U.S. senator that put their name on this as a unanimous consent person, I don't care if you're Lindsey Graham or Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, doesn't matter. If you put your name on this, I think, show why the American people are very, very upset at the U.S. Senate, very upset with the House, and you're idiots. You absolutely are pathetic idiots that you allowed your name to go on this from the U.S. Senate, and nobody gets a pass from me on this one. I know I heard a lot of spin on Friday and Saturday. Well, it was the Democrats. They made us do it. Listen, Republicans, you're in charge of the U.S. Senate, and the House rejected your stupid bill, and they sent it back to you and hopefully keep your ass in Washington, D.C. John Thune, let me serve you notice. All Senate Republicans, I don't want us to go to the minority party in the U.S. Senate. I don't want that to happen. I don't think we will. But if you keep doing stuff like this, John Thune and all of you Republicans up there tolerating this stuff, then you will be a minority party in November because you will deservingly be a minority party. It was really pathetic. I knew there was something up, and I called it out on the show on Friday. I said, you know what? The fact that the U.S. Senate is doing this on a Thursday, dropping it on a Friday, trying to get out, they always wait till the last minute. Then they go to the House and say, well, if you don't do it, the government shuts down tomorrow. Here's our bill. And the House Republicans called them on it. And I knew that's why I called it out on the show on Friday. I said, there's something up here. This bill doesn't smell right. It has all of the signs. It looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck. It got to be a duck. It has all the signs of what the typical shenanigans are that these smarmy, nasty politicians do is they wait till the very last minute when they're ready to go home and see mama or head off to the Cayman Islands with their mistresses and their boyfriends and girlfriends, having illicit affairs outside of the confines of marriage. We know who you are. We know who you are. You got a slush fund in Washington, D.C. to pay the damages that you do when you finally get sued for that kind of behavior. All that being said, I knew it. It smelled like a pile of steaming poo-poo, and it evidently was a steaming pile of poo-poo. And I always say, call your U.S. senators and ask them, John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet here in Colorado voted for this. It's a great bill. It was a horrible bill, and every Republican that put their name on it should also be duly and aptly ashamed. And it was a pathetic exhibition of leadership on the part of Republicans in the U.S. Senate. So don't say we don't call it out on both sides here. We call the balls and strikes. And Republicans in the U.S. Senate, and I know there's some of them, they're very good friends with those Fox News people, and they're not going to criticize them. Listen, have some cojones over there and call it out when you see it. And Republicans, you have to ask yourself, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? All right. Give me your thoughts on that. Now, here's what's going to happen. That House bill, the House rejected the Senate bill. The House said, okay, screw you. We're going to send a bill back to you. We'll play this volleyball game. And they're sending a bill back to the Senate that says, hey, we're going to fund everything. 2 months, 3 months, whatever. Here's the calendar. Everything's funded. Shut up and everybody get back to work. And they're hoping to get passed through the Senate today through a unanimous consent again, which means they don't have to debate it. They just give unanimous consent. But to do so, they have to have unanimous consent. And if one person objects to this new bill, it's going to go down in a blaze of glory. Now, the key thing is that Donald Trump evidently, I'm not sure how effective this will be, but evidently they're going to get paid today. The TSA agents are going to start getting their paychecks because he signed an executive order. Now, here's how stupid the other side of the aisle and how just incoherent they tend to be. What they're saying on the other side is this. Well, if he could have, meaning Cory Booker, and I think Hakeem Jeffries might have said the same thing. If he's going to sign a bill, sign an executive order to pay the TSA, why didn't he do that from the very beginning? If he did that in the very beginning, first of all, it's an extreme action, may go to court to whether he can do that because spending has to go through the powers of the person in the U.S. House and the Congress. But if he can do that, so he just started spending, what would you do on a Saturday? You'd be protesting, he's acting like a king, he's acting like a dictator. And so that's what they would say. And you also have to say, well, Cory Booker, the reason he didn't do this from the beginning is it's not the president's job. It is the House of Representatives and the Senate, their job to pass a budget. Why didn't he pay the TSA early? Well, why didn't you pay the TSA earlier? Why didn't you pass the bill? That is the thing that we send you jackwagons to Washington, D.C. for. We send you to Washington, D.C. to pass legislation and get the heck out of our lives, but to kind of run the government in a sense. You are our elected representatives in Washington, D.C. And so for an elected representative that's supposed to control the purse strings or the power of the purse in Washington to say, I don't know why you didn't just fund the government from the beginning. Well, that's not their job. And if you're going to let the president have that job of just funding what he wants when he wants with executive order, then can we please take Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries and all of these jackwagons off the payroll? If what they're asking for, on one hand, they're protesting, no kings, no kings. But on the other hand, they're saying, why didn't he act like a king from the beginning and pay the TSA? These people, I will say it again, and please quote me, it should be like on Mount Rushmore or wherever it goes. If the Democrats, if you leftists didn't have double standards, you would have no standards at all. On one hand, you're out with your fat, nasty, greasy-haired basement dwellers out there on the street corner drooling like a bunch of Neanderthals going, no kings, no kings. On the other hand, you're saying, well, if he's going to sign executive orders to fund the government, why didn't he do that from the beginning? Because you don't want a king. That's what kings do. So these people, if they don't have double standards, they would have no standards at all. How's everybody doing? Delilah, you doing good? Delilah's doing good. I got a question for you. It's a health question. It's a healthy question or a health question. How many of you have any nutritional hacks that you do? Nutritional hacks. I got a couple of stories and I want to throw this out there is how do you get that extra protein in your diet? What are you doing? Here's a setup to the story. I'll set it up and it'll make more sense to you. There's a trend online that people have said if you will dump your yogurt into your coffee, then you can get extra protein. It's a great protein craze. People on TikTok hyping a new trend where you dump your yogurt into your coffee. Some people are even doing it with flavored yogurt, which seems weird. Producer Chad and I were talking that if you put yogurt in a hot substance, doesn't make it kind of like a cottage cheese thing. Now, there are some chocolate protein things that I put in my coffee kind of as a creamer. I have done that, but yogurt seems a little bit excessive. The guy who started this is a content creator, and he's a gym guy named Jordan Bernstein. His original recipe was cold brew coffee with the Greek yogurt and coconut water, but now he started adding salt and 12 shakes of cinnamon. And there's a Vietnamese drink also that I guess has been around forever that has coffee and yogurt. And so it's becoming a trend. Everybody's thinking, well, if you also add cinnamon and you add some salt into that, you're getting a hydrating. So give me your thoughts. Do you have any hacks? Now, I was going to leave this story alone. I thought, okay, that's a dumb story until I read this story about Mark Cuban. How old, Delilah, do you think Mark Cuban is? Shark Tank. Used to be the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He's a fairly good-looking fellow, right? He's a sharp-looking guy, well-toned, well-skinned. It doesn't look old. How old do you think he is, Delilah? 61. Okay. Aiden, hipster youth, how old do you think he is? You're going 64. You don't even know. Okay. Mark Cuban, 67 years old, going to be 68 this year. He's pushing 70, my friends. He looks pretty good. And so he's on an interview, and he says he has a nutrition hack. Now, he also, at 67, has a 16-year-old son. And this billionaire, Mark Cuban, says when he creates this sandwich in the kitchen, giving him a protein boost, and he thinks it helps him beat aging. When he does this, it drives his 16-year-old straight out of the kitchen. His 16-year-old says, I'm out. So he did this on an appearance at a podcast called Project Swagger at South by Southwest earlier this month. And here's what the 67-year-old Mark Cuban said that he likes to eat as a hack for his protein. You ready? The longtime Shark Tank investor, when making lunch at home, he fills egg white wraps with canned baby clams, and he tops them with honey. He said he shifted from being a vegetarian to a pescatarian diet to boost his iron levels and said the unusual combination is all about efficiency and nutrition. He says the egg white wraps contain about 50 calories, 11 grams of protein. He adds the baby clams onto the egg white wrap, and that gives about 80 calories and 14 grams of protein, plus the iron that he wants in his diet. And it started making me think some people are dumping yogurt on TikTok into their coffee, and Mark Cuban is taking egg white wraps, putting baby clams and honey in it, and everybody's after that extra protein boost, and it caused me to think, what is it that you think is your protein hack? What is the thing that your nutrition hack, that you want more calories? How do you cheat the calories? You want more protein? How do you cheat it? If you have a nutrition hack, does anybody else, have you ever heard of egg white wraps with baby clams sprinkled with honey? I haven't ever heard of it, but evidently Mark Cuban thinks it's a very, very good idea. Now, Arloa says, our daughter makes homemade yogurt that is supposed to be really good for me. That sounds like you got lectured by your daughter, Arloa. Hey, Mama, you need to have some of this yogurt. It's real good for you. It tastes horrible. It's good for you, Mama. You got to eat it. Sounds like that might have been what happened there. All right, give me your nutrition hack. If you have a nutrition hack, I'd love to hear it. And I just like to know how it was that Mark Cuban came up with that recipe. Egg white wraps, baby clams, and honey. I mean, what kind of state of mind do you have to go to the kitchen, open the pantry or refrigerator, say, oh, I've got some egg white wraps. They look like tortillas, right? I've got some egg white wraps. Here they are. What could I put in these? Oh, hark the herald angels sing, I shall put baby clams. And you dump the baby clams in there and say, what should I put on the baby clams today? I think I shall put honey. Oh, local honey too. Kills the allergies. It helps the pollen. I just want to know how you create that. I get it, how you might end up with a yogurt in your coffee or some protein shake dumped in your coffee. I get that. But how you end up holding an egg white wrap in your kitchen as a 67-year-old Mark Cuban, and you look at it and go, I think that would go well with some baby clams. Get the can opener, honey. Let us put the clams on together. Oh, what should we top this with? Ranch dressing? My mind goes to like ranch dressing or something, right? It's a tartar sauce. I don't know. It's clams, cocktail sauce. But honey, that's not where my mind goes. So give me your nutrition hack. Evidently, Mark Cuban's nutrition hack is quite rather interesting. All right, good to have you here on the program on a Monday. Thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day. I'm watching it live on many of the Facebook streams, the Twitter feeds, the X feeds, the Rumble feeds, and then on the podcast platforms. Don't forget podcast, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcast, all the platforms. Thousands of earballs will hear this show, and they will be all the better for it. But your question of the day, what is your nutrition hack? Do you have some quick way that you like to get some nutrition in your body? Feel free to let us know. And if anybody has tried or would like to try the Mark Cuban recipe, we would love to let you be the guinea pig, because it doesn't sound like something that I'm looking forward to, but maybe the rest of you would think that's a very, very good idea. All right. Anybody tried it? Egg white wraps, baby clams. I don't think I've ever bought baby clams, but I do have honey, so I could do the egg white wrap and honey. It just doesn't sound right. All right, the 30th day of March, year of our Lord, 2026. It's a Monday morning. We start off the week with the illustrious author of The DNA of Democracy and the Shadows of the Acropolis, poet, American poet, philosopher, historian, all sorts of grandiose titles. Not sure if he likes the baby clams, though. It's Richard C. Lyons on the stage. Good morning, Richard C. Lyons.
Oh, no. Hello, Jimmy. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very, very well. Good to have you here. Have you ever had baby clams on an egg white wrap drizzled in honey like Mark Cuban?
I don't think I'd even try that.
It doesn't sound good, does it?
No.
It doesn't sound good. Well, he's a nutrition hack. I didn't know that Mark Cuban was 67 years old. He looks pretty good for 67, and yeah. It must be working for him. Richard C. Lyons, lots of things to talk about right now. One of the things I do want to dive into, though, is the social case that happened last week. Meta and Google, by a jury, were found liable for their, I guess, addictive behavior that hooks the kids into the algorithms. I want you to talk about this social media case and unpack it, because this could be a brand new precedent of where we're at in America and the protection that social media platforms have been claiming they have.
Well, they have had, Jimmy, with regard to content. There was back in the 90s when the internet was young. I want to get the name right. There was a Communications Decency Act. All this content to be loaded into their platforms, but the government didn't want all these companies to be sued left and right as though they were the authors of the content, as though they were Penthouse Magazine, right? They could have Penthouse on their platform, but couldn't be sued for having it on the platform because they wanted to load content, right? So they were given this protection. This case that occurred last week, and they were found liable, is for the process on the platform. The process mainly of infinite scrolling, where if you tune into a platform and you click on a certain subject, the platform will fill with related subjects they think you will like. And so you'll go from 1 click to 2 to 3 to 4 and down the line. The difficulty is you'll have a 15-year-old who's getting on and clicking and then wants to see the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, until it's called an infinite scroll of interest. And imagine what AI is going to do with this. AI is going to multiply this. So what the lawsuit was about the process you go through when you are on a platform. So Google and Meta were found guilty. There were others, Snap and TikTok, settled on the case, which means they paid money out of pocket, admitting, okay, you have a case. What this says to every attorney in a target-rich environment, think of this, Jimmy, you have all these companies that are worth billions and billions of dollars. So you say you're an attorney, you're going to take that lawsuit on speculation that you can win. You won't even ask for money. You'll demand it from somebody like Meta in a lawsuit. And so what has happened is, in a target-rich environment, you now have a mass of law firms that are going to go and say, we have this precedent set against these companies. And in fact, 2 other companies settled, which means we have a case, right? And now there are 2,400 cases in California alone.
Wow.
That are going to be brought.
At this court case, there were actually stories of suicide, death, mental disruption by these. There's some really sad stories, and it seems as if that protection that the social media platforms have had for all this time could have been dealt with by politicians in DC. That could have been taken away. Instead, it wasn't. Now you have this chain of, or this string of people that have become victims, many of them no longer on the planet, and it's going to be settled in the legal system since the legislature didn't deal with this. Is this something that could have been dealt with long ago and prevented this problem?
Well, they didn't want to create laws in a new era of technology that would have killed internet platform companies in the cradle, so to speak, Jimmy. If you had allowed any of their content to be liable for all the persons going on that platform, it could have killed the technology in the cradle. So it was what's happening now. It's actually a fruit of our democracy that 20 different states are now enacting laws on their own that ban different sorts of processes, different sorts of content, right? That's what you want to see. And then you're going to have best practices of the states being replicated in other states and then federally.
Yeah.
And so the technology was sprung on us, rather surprisingly, and now we're forming the laws and legislation to curtail the bad effects of the technology. We're going to see this too in AI. I mean, this is another technology coming down the road. Well, how do we deal with it, right? So This is where we are.
Let me ask, part of me says, okay, these families, obviously the victims have there. I asked my son, I was doing a radio topic on the topic. I think it's some state was putting a restriction, or a country was putting a restriction on how old you could have a social media on a cell phone. My son was about 17. He's 20 now. And I said, what do you think if you could have had a cell phone to you're 15, 16 years old with social media? You think that's a good idea? I expected him immediately to go, bad idea, Dad. He said, that probably would have been a good idea. I mean, he recognized it. His friends recognize how they get stuck in these devices. The question becomes, at which point did we as parents, knowing about screen time issues long before COVID, then they handed phones to everybody, but what else about screen time? At which point does personal responsibility in a beautiful republic like ourselves, or parental responsibility, overshadow the guilt of these tech companies? They provided a product, but don't individuals or parents have some responsibility? You didn't monitor your kids enough?
That is a fantastic question. As parents, my wife and I limited the kids to what they could view, right? There was a filter that we set up, what they could view, and they only had so much time a day that they could use anything, whether phone or iPad. And you're exactly right. In a democracy like ours, Jimmy, the parents rule the family. The parents decide what their kids are viewing, and and it goes to the schooling. How and what is their education? And this has really been taken out of our society since the 1960s, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Jimmy, that parents say, "Oh, let the school board deal with it locally. Let the government deal with it nationally." How is this? I'm very busy. The government knows better. The government never knows better than a parent. I mean, never. I mean, they called it, get this, Jimmy, the law that was created, the Act of 1996, was called the Communications Decency Act. But the act allowed any content onto all these platforms and set up a shield for them in order that they not be sued.
Where I was hoping that social media companies would get in trouble is some of their political nonsense that they do, and that people have been wanting to take away their protection. Oh, we're just the platform. We didn't come up with that content. And does this, I guess, ruling affect anything that we know that the social media companies have been doing politically?
No, this goes to process, not content, but I'm sure there will be lawsuits. I'll bet there's some in the works regarding what Meta considers is appropriate on their platform and what is not.
Yeah.
And look at what they did in reference to elections. They allow all the liberal viewpoints without any of the conservative viewpoints. And they allow outright lies as opposed to allowing truths from the conservative side.
Yeah.
So they rig the game on their platform.
As a historian, you've written the book, The DNA of Democracy and Shadows of the Acropolis. From a historic perspective, you've mentioned AI a couple of times and what that could mean, not just to the lives of individuals and kids, but what it could mean to our government, what it could mean to us as a society. Going back into the ancient days and the cradles of democracy, what was their AI? What was their thing that brought about the great change in those previous societies that we can learn from today, that if we're going to be a free republic, a great nation, we better adjust to this? And there's some lessons that we can draw from this, because AI is coming. The technology is there, and it has the potential for good, has the potential for great bad.
That's another tremendous question. So, taking it back to the classical era, what was the new thing then was individual liberty and citizen rights and rights of property and rights of commerce. What we have to realize with regard to AI and all these technologies nowadays is that businesses have their interests. Government has its interests, right? Politically, we just talked about that. The different parties have different interests in what is on the platform. But key to this, Jimmy, key to this are the state's interests. We have 50 states, laboratories. we should be looking there for the best laws and practices. And then the critical issue is that individuals, the extension of individuals is family rights. And families have different interests than businesses, different interests than the government. And families and parents need to step up, like the parents of Kaylee did very wisely, and said, wait a minute, our daughter was very negatively affected by this, and we have to stand up right now. And so this is, in our democracy, this is what's functioning correctly now, is that the parents are having a say. And they can't just, well, the business that's doing this must be okay because the government allows them to do it, or governmentally. Well, if that's the business, we have to protect it in its initial stages, even if it's at the cost of certain individuals. Everybody has a different perspective. The beauty of a democracy is individual rights as citizens, and those extend to family rights. And families have to stand up in America as opposed to, and say to, businesses and the government, this is what's best for our kids. Because what's best for the family is best for society. That's my view.
Yeah. The voice of Richard C. Lyons. We'll go through his books and his writing, American poet, who's takes a great look at democracy through a series of essays in the DNA of democracy. You also give the shadows of the Acropolis. Richard, can I switch gears and get your perspective? I think we have I worry about our country, our republic, our democracy. I worry about it. And on display was the evidence this past week. The government's been shut down. TSA has not been funded. The Senate, at the last minute, I got suspicious. They said, oh, we're going to go out of town for Easter. Here's a unanimous consent bill. Send it over to the House. We'll pay TSA. It goes to the House, and the House says, wait, this shenanigans. You're leaving town under the cover of darkness. Yeah. We reject this. This is a bad bill. And then you have these U.S. senators going, well, we tried our best. We can't do anything because of the filibuster. Everybody in Washington, D.C., it's just broken. The whole process. Republicans are broken. The Democrats broken. The filibuster's broken. Everything's all screwed up. They're all saying, well, we voted to open the government. It's bizarro world. Is this a signal that the end is near, for goodness sake? I mean, it's really dysfunctional. And it was all on display within the last 48 to 72 hours with this bill back and forth between the House and the Senate. As a historian, do you look at it and go, yeah, the history repeats itself, prepare for the end?
I worry that you have a Democrat Party that's in the minority that thinks they can stop the government from running until they get their way. They are in the minority. The majority of voters in the country, Jimmy, and in every swing state, again, voted to have the border shut down. That's the first duty of a government. Voted to have illegal immigrants that flooded the country in an invasion taken out of the country. What the Democrats are trying to do is protect their sanctuary cities, protect their sanctuary states, protect the criminals by abolishing the government organs that were conceived in order to protect the country. That's what the Democrats are doing, and they're holding the whole country hostage. What normal, moderate Democrat voters ought to be saying to themselves is, this is not my Democrat Party, because it's not anymore. They are acting unconstitutionally at the city and state level, and now at the federal level, they're saying, oh, like spoiled brats. Well, we're just not going to play the game. We're gonna sit down and scream.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And it's really, it's unbecoming of our government. The Democrat Party has become un-American, unconstitutional, and the voters that are moderate in that party ought to take it back.
Yeah. I'm wondering if there's how many moderates are still out there. I drove accidentally past one of the No Kings protests the other day, and I'm like, yeah, not sure there's any moderates out here. It was that was bizarro world.
Well, apparently all the persons there, they smoke a little grass, they get their government check, and they got nothing better to do.
Yeah.
So
It was bizarro world. All right, we talked about the DNA of democracy, shadows of the Acropolis. In this day and age that we live in, when we're oftentimes consumed with news from a fire hose, just swallow it. Oh God, the whole world's falling apart. Sometimes it's good to pause and reflect on where we started, where we're at, and that's what you've written about. Why is the DNA of democracy and shadows of the Acropolis, why are they more important now than ever before, that we turn off the news and we put something between our two ears that maybe is not just a current event?
As citizens, Jimmy, one of the categories of the books is self-help. As citizens of a democracy, unless you know the fundamentals, and our civics doesn't teach it anymore, how was our country built? How did it take the best of history's democracies, republics, and common law countries, and how did we put that together in the miracle of our Constitution? Why did we fight the Civil War, right? These are extremely important things. What about the women's suffragette movement? This is how our government was formed and how it operates wonderfully. When you get to the shadows of the Acropolis, so Volume 1 is all about how our country was created and why. Volume 2 is how and why our country has changed over the last 100 years to allow more and more socialism, more and more dependency, more and more offhanding the rights of families to the federal government, who knows the least about your children, right? And we have to reclaim our rights. And that's why I've written these volumes.
Folks want to follow you, Richard C. Lyons, and or get a copy of either of the aforementioned works. Where do they go, sir?
I run a little shop at richardclyons.com, or they can find it at Amazon or any retail outlet.
richardclyons.com. All things Richard C. Lyons are there. Also look up the name on the Amazon and get these more than ever before. Give yourself a little self-help and understand the context, the paradigm in which our founders intended for us to go and where we're headed, and a course correction. You go back to the basics, the basic blueprints. Richard C. Lyons, always a great treasure to have you on the program. I appreciate you hopping on, and let me know if you tried those baby clams and egg whites.
I'm going to skip the honey for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Salty, I don't know. Richard C. Lyons, appreciate you. richardclyons.com. richardclyons.com. How's everybody doing today? Baby clams, Delilah. I think they're like over with the sardines. They're like a little can thing. You shake them out of the can, right? Am I? Well, I've never bought them, but if you told me you need some baby clams, it's not like I'm going to go to the yard and get them. You got to go buy them, and I think they're in the can, like sardines or anchovies or something. Yeah, the egg, it throws me off. But hey, what's your nutrition hack? If you're new to the program, that's a nutrition hack that we're going by. That's what Mark Cuban. He looks pretty good for 67. I mean, I had never contemplated his age, but I would have never guessed that his age was 67. I mean, not that 67 is horribly old. I mean, I'm closer now than I used to be to that, but still over a decade away. Thank the Lord. But he's 67. He looks good for 67, and it makes me think that maybe I need to go buy some egg white wraps, baby clams, and some honey and give that a shot for my extra protein shot. That it seems like that could be something very, very good. All right. Glad to have all of you here on the show. It's going to be interesting to watch what's going to happen in the House and the Senate today. Isn't it interesting? I've watched politics enough, and I knew that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when the U.S. Senate on Friday morning at 2 a.m. Eastern time, midnight or so, Mountain time, they said, "Oh, we passed a bill that's going to open the TSA and they open the government back up." And I said, wait, that's the kind of crap they pull right before Christmas break. Oh, I know we should have done better, but we didn't want to have a government shutdown. We got to get home for Christmas. And so when the U.S. Senate passed this thing under the cover of darkness on Thursday night as Friday morning, my spidey senses went up, and I said, this is not right. This is got to be shameful. And sure enough, the U.S. House got it. And again, I know the Democrats are very, very, very much problematic, but Republicans in the U.S. Senate are oftentimes just wimps. And I know you got Susan Collins. I know you got Lisa Murkowski. But the fact that it was still unanimous consent that Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, you guys, your name was on it as well. I mean, you can say, well, it's unanimous consent. It's not really our name. No, it is. It is your name. And the fact that you guys were asleep at the wheel, I heard that some of the U.S. senators, after they realized what they had done from the Republican side, were having buyer's remorse. But instead, I just heard a lot of CYA. And Republicans in the Senate, you don't get your crap together. John Thune, you don't figure something out and stop letting these terroristic minority members like Chuck Schumer, who is just in it for Chuck Schumer. If you don't figure how to communicate and how to elaborate on what's happening and not look like a bunch of guys doing backroom deals in the middle of the night, then you don't deserve to win in November. You don't deserve a penny. I don't want that to be the case, but what happened Thursday in the U.S. Senate, they hide behind these rules. Well, we can't get away with the filibuster. It's being misused, it's being abused, and at some point you have to end it. I'm sorry, I hate to say that, but you're just going to have to do it. Well, the Democrats are going to lie, cheat, and steal anyway. They'll cheat on the whole election. You think they're not afraid to get rid of the filibuster? The Democrats will lie when it comes to federal funding for autistic children so that they can feed Somalia families and pirates in Minnesota. The Democrats are full of waste, fraud, and abuse and deception. And so for Republicans to hide behind the filibuster in the U.S. Senate because the Democrats would do this. Look what the Democrats already do. They fund the Somali pirates. There's billions of dollars. Listen, if all the waste, fraud, and abuse would end right now that we know is out there, we would have a balanced budget. In America, there's billions of dollars wasted by places like California, Minnesota, and other states as well. And the House rejected that Senate bill, and they should have, and they did. And all of the U.S. senators that are Republicans should be ashamed of themselves for letting it go. And I know there's a process that, well, I didn't really vote on it. It was unanimous consent. No, stop the excuses. Stop hiding behind your lame ass rules in the U.S. Senate. And why don't you become a man, or why don't you become a real woman of intestinal integrity, intestinal or testicular fortitude, and stand up for what's right? I'm sick and tired of hearing Republicans go on the television and blame it on the filibuster, or it was unanimous consent and we didn't really vote on it individually. No, stop it. Do your job. Figure out the rules that are right, and throw the other things as away. You know what the U.S. Senate reminds me of? And I wasn't raised this way as much as some people were, but there's some people when they're raised religiously, and they're raised religiously to the point of legalism. To where it's just legalistic. It's not about grace anymore. It's about, you do this rule. If your hair is too long, if your hair is too short, you don't cover your self up. You wear this for certain wardrobe. Then that it's legalism. And these Republicans sound the same way in the U.S. Senate. Well, we would have done this, but that we're protected by this, and we have to have this covering. No, stop this legalistic hiding out. Justifying your actions is disgusting, and I'm really tired of it. And I hope the TSA agents get paid, and I hope all the airlines will decide that these politicians do not get any extra bonus treatment. They have to wait in line with the rest of us schmucks, and I really hope they do. And Chuck Schumer, I think it'd be great for you to wait with the people in the line at New York. Let's say JFK, LaGuardia, wherever you fly in and out of. I think it'd be great for old Chuckles to be waiting in line with people with their carry-ons and see if Chuckles could handle actually hanging out face-to-face with his constituents. How many politicians do you think would be able to survive just a conversation, or the moment that they had to stand in line for an hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes in the stanchions, row back and forth like you're getting on a ride at Disneyland, back and forth, if they had to wait in that line with the rest of us? I'm not sure most of them would know even how to have a conversation with us plebes. I think most of them see themselves better than us, and they get escorted right through the VIP line. And I think that should stop because they need to be out with the people. And I'd like to see Chuck Schumer, Michael Bennet. Why don't you wait your marble mouth butt in line with the rest of us? John Hickenlooper as well. Just get in line and wait in line with the rest of us. And I think it would do you well to understand what the rest of us face when it's a TSA line. All right. Good to have you here. I was talking to my son last night on the telephono, and he has an award that he's nominated for in his school, and it's because of the work we do with Rivers Promise, and he's, in case he wins, and I'm not sure he will. I hope to live stream it if he not here, but I mean I will watch it. I'm not out there for it, but it's if he's nominated as one of the athletes nominated for this award, then he has to get up and make a speech. So I was kind of helping him. What would you say? How would you do it? Hey, Dad, what are the latest stats of what we do with Rivers Promise? And how many kids are at the school now? How many meals are we feeding? And it was fun to hear him go, wow, because things have gone up. Did you know what Rivers Promise? By the way, we got some letters last week. Some of you check your mail. Letters started coming in January, February. We got them translated. They just went out in March. So some of you are just getting letters. This little girl here, I thought her name was Era. Look at that cutie. She sent a letter to her sponsor, and unfortunately her sponsor dropped. So I have the letter to the sponsor here, but her sponsor canceled about a few months ago, and evidently they didn't get the note in Rwanda. So that's Era. We're going to be pushing her to get a new sponsor here real soon. But she's trying to do her best to get promoted to 6th grade at our Legacy Christian Academy. And she wrote a little letter. It's a beautiful letter, but I was stuffing envelopes over the weekend, helping out with that. And all of a sudden I said, oh, that girl's not sponsored anymore. Era. I kept her photo, though, to talk about. So I was talking to my son, and I was talking about the work that we do at Rivers Promise. And we started doing the calculation. Did you know that through the work of Rivers Promise and what the good Lord allows us to do, it's not just education. We obviously send kids to school. Most of our lion's share of the kids in education go to Legacy Christian Academy, but we only go up through certain grades, and some kids have been sponsored. So I've got kids and seniors in high school, and so we send them off to other schools through our sponsorship program. But through our sponsorship program and our daily feeding program, we feed about 15,000 individual meals throughout the course of a month. It varies if it's a short month or a long month, and it varies as to, there's a lot of variation. About 15,000 meals that we provide either through our school or by sending kids to other schools that we give food in their belly. And you say, that's a lot of food. And it is. And you know why I have to have a lot of food? Because we got a lot of kids. And the Lord's blessed us with that. I want to encourage you. We're the end of the month. I don't know if you get paid on the 1st and the 5th, 15th and the 30th or the 1st, whatever. I'd like you to consider a donation today to Rivers Promise. I sent the last wire of money over last week. I got the message, Jimmy, you only sent part of the wire. And I said, I know I only sent part of the wire because I only had part of the wire. And so I will be spending some time today focused on Rivers Promise and fundraising. But I don't like talking about the dollars. I don't like talking with buildings and stuff like that. That's all great. It's the letters I get from the kids that are thanking their sponsors. This is the guy I showed you the other day, Lionel Prince. You know that kid right there, Lionel? The kid would maybe get a meal a week, maybe not eat at all if it weren't for Legacy Christian Academy. You see that cute uniform? That's a beautiful uniform we provide. That's the color of our school. Do you know most of these kids would literally have on rags and a shirt if it weren't for us? The eyeglasses, yeah, we've had kids that thought they had real problems, and we just sent them to eye doctors through their health insurance, and we get the kids glasses if they need it. We have a few kids with glasses. Listen, there's for every dollar you give, there's a child on the receiving end of that. It's not just a meal, it's not just a slab of eggs or whatever, vegetables for the food, but there's a child that would not eat without our help. And so I would encourage you, my friends, to prayerfully consider making a donation today. You say, what are these pictures? Well, these are kids that either we got photos and they're not sponsored, or their photos and their sponsor had lapsed on them, and they still sent letters to their sponsor thanking their sponsor. And I thought about sending it to their sponsor and say, hey, you're lapsed on your kid, but I'm not here to guilt or manipulate. I'm just here to let you know that there's opportunity. You say, Jimmy, a lot of opportunities everywhere. Yeah, give to something. Give to something. If it's veterans causes, pet causes, that's fine. But the book of James talks about that true religion that God recognizes is taking care of the widows and the orphans, and that's what we do with Rivers Promise. Again, you have to feel that tug in your own heart. You have to know what you want to do. But I show you these photos. There's another one. This is Briella. Briella we got a photo of her. She's on our website, I believe, but I'm not sure why we got a photo with no letter. So I don't think she's sponsored. Anyway, I'll work on that today as well. That's what I'll do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, make a donation if you can. Into the month, I can break it down if you want me to break it down to you. $9 buys a dozen eggs. It's depending on which school we're funding and things. It's a couple of $1,000 a week is what we are spending or need to spend in food bill, and sponsorships cover that as well, because sponsorships go towards the food bill. If you sponsor a kid, you're going to just feeding the kid as well. All that said, I'm rambling on at riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. If you'd like to donate, feel free to do so. Feel free to make that donation. We would love to hear from you today, this week, as we wrap up March and begin April. I've said March, January, February, March, April, we're always behind the 8 ball anyway. So if you can help us, we would love to have you do that. Make a donation, any size, just put greatest need. We'll make sure it gets to where it needs to go. And, another thing you can do is set up a recurring gift. Maybe it's a small amount, but maybe do that small amount every month. Just set it up to recur. $10, $5, $100, just a recurring donation is always a helpful thing. And if you'd like to sponsor an individual child, you can do that on the website as well. All right, one more quick thing before we go to the stolen memes section of the show is Sherry Cree, fantastic sponsor of the program. We had her on Friday. You can go back and listen to the Friday section of the show. But if you're into the real estate game, meaning you need to buy, sell, upgrade, downgrade, downsize, upsize, whatever the case may be, you need to call Sherry and develop that strategy session. You say, what's a strategy session? I just need a sign of the yard. No, what you need is top dollar. What you need is top dollar. What you need is the strategy to make sure that you accomplish your goals in the time you want to, and the financial goal. There's a financial element. Maybe you want to downsize and put that money in investment. Maybe you want to upsize. You got kids, grandkids. I don't know what your situation is, but that tells you every situation is different. Call Sherry, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. And just talk to her. And, if there's certain windows, or sometimes that waiting a month to list a home or buy a home can actually play in your favor. You got to know that strategy. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. Reach out to her. That I-25 corridor in Colorado, whether you're in the Denver metro area, whether you're in Boulder, Broomfield, Longmont, up to the Fort Collins, the Windsor area. Hello, Eaton, Colorado. I know she's out showing some people some property there a couple of weeks ago. Greeley, if you're in the Thornton, Frederick, Parker, Aurora, you get the idea. Reach out to Sherry. And by the way, there's an area that she thinks that maybe someone else could serve you better. She does have a free referral service, and I gave you that insider trading tip that if you're in the weather out there and saying, oh, it's nice, I'd like to be able to go spend some summers in the mountains or winter in the mountains, she can help you with that as well. Just insider information. She can help you. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. Reach out to Sherry Cree, fantastic sponsor of the show, and always love to hear. Always love to have you reach out to people that support this program, because they support the program, you support them, and we still get to wake up and do it every morning together. All right, I have a repair request in with Delilah. She hasn't done it over the weekend. If you remember Friday, our globe, the spinning globe almost fell apart, and the axis, something broke up here, and so we're going to get it fixed. Delilah has a request out for the handyman to fix it. But in the meantime, we're going to have to pretend that I'm spinning the globe, because I don't want to touch that, because we could cause tidal waves and stuff if that happens. So we got to be very careful here. Ready? Stolen memes section of the show. Here we go. Round and round the globe we go. Where are we stealing the memes from? No one knows. When you tell a socialist the truth, they cry, claiming it's hate speech. No, it's not hate speech. It's just that you're useless people who have ruined the planet. By the way, that's a quote from President Milei of Argentina. All those people at the protest on Saturday, you're crying. You have hate speech. You want to be the king. No, you're just a useless person, and you've ruined the planet, and you're continuing to ruin it, spewing hot air on the street corner. By the way, if you were on the street corners this past weekend at a No Kings protest, and you should really check you should check yourself before you wreck yourself. Some of you reaching the point of no return with your derangement syndrome. All right, here we go. Round and round the globe we go. That's not spinning. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. There is no King's protest. Millions gather to express total ignorance about the political system. Yep, a bunch of ignorant people. I just read some of the signs. I'm like, these people are really stupid. I mean, some of the signs were just vitriol. You're going to spend a whole Saturday standing outside just because you hate one man? Oh, it's a sad life. All right, round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, so no one knows. When you refuse to fund TSA, but you get to skip the lines and fly first class. That's old Bernie. He was flying to a No Kings protest. Got snapshotted in the first class. By the way, speaking of ugly, is he the goofiest looking fella ever? I don't know if it's a stroke or just his facial expression. There's a phrase among ladies I know that has been out there. It's called, you got to watch your, I think it's in the television, watch your resting bee face, biatch face. You don't want to look like angry. You got to look relaxed. Your resting face, you need to make sure you have a pleasant resting face. Does Bernie have a pleasant any face? I mean, his resting face is really like he's a mad scientist and something's blowing up in his head, but his active face is also the same thing. So I don't know. All right, round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Gen Z worrying about the military draft is hilarious. Half of y'all can't run a mile. You live on vapes. You can't define your gender. Nobody's looking to you for protection, I promise. All right, we're fine. We'll handle it ourselves. The Gen Xers got this under control. Because with Gen Xers, we really don't give a darn. We're at that age in our life to where we're getting to that point, we're just going to say it. Just going to say it and do it. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. This is so true. So you want to protest No Kings? There's old Bernie, billionaires and millionaires. 40 years in office. There's old Chuck Schumer putting cheese on raw meats on the grill. Remember that photo? He's been in office 52 years. Speaking of kings, Joe Biden, 50 years in office. All of you deranged people out there marching on the streets on Saturday, the guy that ticks you off so much that you think is a king has only been in office 5 years. That's it, 5 years. Look at the other numbskulls up there, and you're pissed off about the guy that just got there, and he'll be done in a couple more years. Yeah. Derangement. Sick. Mental. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Democrats mocking a plumber becoming DHS secretary. The same Democrats wanting a ditzy bartender as their presidential nominee. Reference to, was it Jimmy Kimmel joking that Mark Wayne Mullen used to be a plumber? Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel, speaking of intellectually bankrupt, that would be him. Yeah, doesn't seem to mind the old bartender, but yeah, he's got a real problem with a plumber. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, Jeff Foxworthy, if you think it's okay for Iran to have nukes, but not okay for law-abiding Americans to have guns, you might be a Democrat. I don't think Jeff Foxworthy said that, but it's Foxworthy style. You get the idea. Yeah, we're not putting a quote in his mouth if he didn't say it. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. That segment's really not as fun if I'm not spinning the globe. I just realized that. All right, well, Delilah, work on it. Post-haste, call the Globe Repair Company and see if we can get our spinny globe working by tomorrow because it's much better. Come on, Jimmy. Jimmy, he's so good looking, God has made his face bigger. He's talking about Bernie or me? No, I mean, I am pretty darn good looking. Bald. How baby do they have to be? Age, size, or are these a rant? I don't know what the context of these statements are. I have no clue what they're talking about. All right. I don't know the context. Babies. Were you talking about babies on the show? I don't remember that. Yeah, there's probably things that I shouldn't read them because I probably, yeah, they're popping up and I don't even know it. Oh, baby clams. Maybe he's talking baby clams. Although it is Jeff. You never know where Jeff's coming from in his little beady head. No on the baby clams. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen. And then I just see another one. Probably. Yes, like they're answering questions. Which question are you answering? I don't know. It's time for me to wrap this thing up. You know why? Because it's Monday. By the way, Friday, how many of you are working on Friday? We were having a discussion before in the pre-show. If Friday is a work on Good Friday, I don't remember. I know we did some shows where we played gospel music on Good Friday in between segments. Yeah, I don't know. Friday is Good Friday. I'll announce tomorrow what the plans are for the show on Friday. In the meantime, don't forget to donate to the charity. Right there on the shoulders, right there on the hat, right there on your screen. You know what? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 signs that you should make a donation right now. I mean, I ain't saying it's a sign from the Lord, but maybe it is. Donate, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. God bless you. God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.